All right, welcome back. Today we're diving into a question that's, well, kind of fundamental to everything we think and believe. And that question is, how do we really know that what we know is true? We're going to dig deep into the very nature of knowledge and proof. You've probably heard this a million times, right? If something is real, you should be able to prove it with physical evidence. And on the surface, that sounds totally logical. But is it really that simple? Let's take a closer look at that idea. Yeah, this idea is everywhere. You hear it all the time. God exists? Show me. I only believe what I can see. It's that classic demand, give me the hard, physical proof, especially for things that maybe don't fit neatly into a science lab. We're going to use this as our jumping off point. Is seeing is believing really the only way we can know something is real? So you might be surprised to learn there's a whole field of study, a branch of philosophy dedicated to exactly this. It's called epistemology. It's basically the science of knowledge. It asks that big question, how do we know what we know? You can think of it as the how-to guide for knowledge itself. Okay, so these philosophers, the epistemologists, they basically say we have three main tools in our knowledge toolkit. The first is our senses. The second is our ability to reason. And the third, which we might not think about as much, is what other people tell us, their reports or testimony. Let's break each one down. So, number one, our senses. This is the most obvious one, right? It's called empirical knowledge. It's everything you see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. You know the coffee is hot because you feel the steam. You know your favorite song is on because you hear it. It's just direct data coming in from the world around you. But here's where it gets interesting. Let's say you go outside and see the sun. That's direct observation, right? You're using your senses. But what if you're inside, you see sunlight streaming through the window, and you conclude the sun must be out? See, that's a little different. You're not just seeing, you're thinking, you're connecting the dots. And that leads us right into our second tool. And that tool is reason. This is what we call rational knowledge. It's not about what your senses are telling you in the moment. It's about using your mind, using logic to figure things out. I mean, think about all of mathematics. It's built on this. You know that if A equals B and B equals C, then A has to equal C. You don't need to see it or touch it to know it's true. It's just pure logic. Okay, on to number three. This is a huge one. And honestly, we use it so much, we probably don't even realize it. It's called testimony. This is basically any and all knowledge you get from other people. It could be someone talking to you, something you read in a book or an article online, or a report on the news. And I mean, really think about this for a second. How do you know that Alexander the Great was a real person? Were you there? How about the stuff in your science textbook? Did you personally do every single one of those experiments? Here's a wild one. How do you know the person you call your mother is actually your biological mother? Unless you've had a DNA test, you know because she told you, your family told you, there's a birth certificate. It's all testimony. The honest truth is, a massive chunk of what we know comes from trusting what other people have told us. All right, so there's our toolkit. Senses, reason, and testimony. But here's the real kicker. Does one tool work for every single job? Can you just pick one and run with it? Or do they each have their own limits? This, my friends, is where things get really, really interesting. So if you look at this, it becomes pretty clear. Each of these tools has a job it's perfect for and a major weakness. Our senses, amazing for science, for navigating our daily lives, but they can be tricked by illusions. Reason, it's the engine of math and philosophy. But, our own logic can be faulty. And testimony, it's how we know about history, news, even religious claims. But the big limitation, people can lie or just be wrong. The key takeaway here is that no single tool is foolproof. And this gets us to the absolute core of the issue. Demanding the wrong kind of proof for something, it's like trying to measure love with a ruler. It just doesn't work. It's what philosophers call a category error. You're using the wrong tool for the job. You can't stick a historical event in a test tube and get a result, any more than you can measure how happy you are in inches or centimeters. The tool has to match the task. So let's dive in a bit deeper. First up, the limits of our own senses. Okay, think about this classic example. We've all seen it. You look down a long, straight set of train tracks. Your eyes tell you, plain as day, that those two tracks meet in the distance. They converge into a single point. You see it happen. But does your brain believe it? Nope. You know for a fact they stay parallel. So even with perfect vision, your senses can feed you information that is flat out wrong. All right, so our senses aren't perfect. They can be fooled. But what about pure logic? What about reason? That's got to be foolproof, doesn't it? Well, reason is incredibly powerful, for sure. But it does have one unbreakable rule. It cannot be used to prove something that is, by its very nature, impossible. Just imagine for a second. The single most trustworthy person you know, your best friend, your mom, whoever, comes up to you completely serious and says, "I have seen a square circle." Do you believe them? No way. Why? Because a circle, by its very definition, cannot be a square. The statement itself is a logical contradiction. It doesn't matter how reliable the source is, you can't believe an impossible claim. And that brings us right back around to testimony. Since we rely on it for so much of what we know, how do we decide when to actually trust what someone tells us? Well, it really comes down to a two-step process, one that we pretty much use all the time without even thinking about it. Step one is the person telling you this trustworthy. Are they a credible source? And step two is what they're saying actually possible. Now, it can be wild, it can be something that's never happened before, but it can't be a logical impossibility. It can't be a square circle. But hang on, what about the kinds of knowing that don't seem to fit neatly into these three boxes? What happens when our main tools don't quite get the job done? I'm talking about things like intuition. You know, that eureka moment, that flash of insight that seems to come out of nowhere. It's led to countless scientific discoveries. Or what about introspection? That's the personal knowledge you have of your own feelings. No one else can know if you're truly happy or sad or feeling loyal. Only you know that. Now, these are real ways of knowing, for sure, but they're also super personal, and let's be honest, they can be a lot more unreliable. Okay, so let's tie this all together. Let's go back to that original challenge, back to that modern doubter, because now we have the tools to give a real answer. And here's the bottom line. Demanding to see physical, sensory evidence for absolutely everything is just not a valid way to argue. It's that category error we talked about. You cannot demand to see a historical event in a laboratory. You can't prove a mathematical theorem with a science experiment. You have to use the right tool for the right kind of knowledge. History needs testimony. Math needs reason. Science needs the senses. So I want to leave you with a final question to chew on. Think about one of your own most deeply held beliefs, something you feel is absolutely true about the world, about other people, about yourself. Now that you have this toolkit, ask yourself, which kind of knowledge is that belief based on? Is it your senses, your reason, or is it testimony? The answer might surprise you, and it might tell you a lot about not just what you know, but how you know it. Thanks for tuning in.